Welcome to the D&M with Danes podcast. I'm your host, Dana De Silva. This is a space where I interview incredible souls from various backgrounds, professions, and walks of life, those who don't shy away from deep questions. Anyone who knows me knows that I love a good D&M. As I wrote in one of my poems, I'm not here for the small talk. Tell me what keeps you awake at night. Tell me the guilt you're carrying. Tell me about the one that got away. Tell me who you wanted to be. For the love of God, tell me something real. So grab a cuppa and get ready for what I hope will feel like a juicy midnight chat around the kitchen table. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you love this episode. But first of all, thank you so much for joining me in space. I'm so excited to chat to you. We actually met a few years ago at a women's topless brunch event, and I really recalled you for being super grounded and humble and just the real deal, like really heart-led. And you shared a little bit about your origins of how you came to be doing this work. So first of all, for those who haven't had the absolute pleasure of discovering you yet, please tell us, who is Caitlin Erica, and what is this work that you're doing in the world, and how did you come to be doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still figuring out who I am every day, but I guess that's the fun of it. Um, my story is really that I trained as a birth doula. That's what I was dreaming of. I wanted to support women giving birth and welcoming babies to the earth, and then I had an unyielding message from spirit, God, delusion, whatever, whatever people think. It was this deep call from within, and I knew it was my highest guidance, and it told me to go to a strip club and become a stripper. And that was such a foreign, way out there idea for me, but I knew the truth of that call and that it was for my highest good. And so I took myself to the clubs trembling and had this incredible initiation where I got to confront all of my conditioning around shame, sensuality, sexuality, freedom of expression, like competition in the sisterhood, asking, receiving, talking about just all of these pieces of myself and the collective, and came to see how much shame is stored in the female body or projected onto the female body, especially around our reproductive organs, the organ group that nurtures and grows our babies if we have them. So I came to see this link between sexual repression, sexual shame, and fear of birth and birth trauma, because when we're scared of part of our nature, when we've been taught that part of our nature is wrong, we try to reject it. We cut part of ourselves off looking for wholeness, and it impacts everything we try to do with these like blessed bodies. So it's been a long adventure full of unexpected twists and turns, but I have the pleasure and the privilege of helping women just return home to their bodies and their sacredness and their sensuality and sexuality in a really beautiful, grounded, deep, rich way. So that's me.
Beautiful. And tell me how you've come to be working in that sort of erotic dance space, holding space for women, groups of women in particular. I know that you were doing the strip her pop-ups, but I think you've kind of moved into a new direction now. So yeah, tell me what's currently happening in that space.
Yeah, okay, so my time in the strip clubs really inspired, like, I need for more women, or I want, my prayer is for more women to experience this and to have this awakening for themselves. And I created this event that's like, if you imagine like a strip club, but for women only, where the guests are the dancers and the stage is open for all to be celebrated. And it's not transactional. No one wants anything for them. We're just pouring into each other, celebrating each other for this just part of our nature that we don't always have a safe space for, to just drop into our sensuality and be witnessed and celebrated and upheld for it. So I would have the kind of the money, but it's all words of, I don't have any with me right now, or words of affirmation that, you know, we praise each other with, and roses and rose petals. And I never wanted to push my kind of spirituality onto anyone, and I wanted it to be really accessible. But when women come into the space, like, who am I kidding? I'm bowing down, I'm kneeling at every woman and giving her a blessing and kissing her ankles and her feet. And it's very much this sacred, reverent space. So yeah, it's called the Temple of Venus. And I mean, that's just one of many events I have. I have a retreat where I teach women to strip, and it's mostly about stripping away the conditioning. It's a metaphor, you know. It's this initiation, like the descent of Inanna, if you're aware of that myth or story. So yeah, just different events and programs that are around reclaiming these aspects of ourselves that we've been taught to fear or to hide or to reject.
Yeah, it's interesting because you're so used to as well in those stripping worlds is that it's for the male gaze. So for you to have these events where there's no males present, it's all about the women and doing it for their own evolution and enjoyment is really beautiful. And you touched on something before that I've seen your events on social media, and I'm very drawn to them, but I've not been to one of your dance events yet. But I did grow up dancing, very in tune with my body, all of that, and I've wondered what the edge would be for me to come to one of your events. But I think for me it's that competitiveness with women is that's always been something that I've found intimidating, and you know, it's real and it exists. And so yeah, I think if I was to come along, I think that's what I'd probably be looking to tune into and to feel.
Yeah, I mean, my teacher said, I remember she said to me a while ago, it's kind of funny you're doing women's work seeing as you're terrified of women. I was like, yeah, I know.
Because you're growing as well. Yeah.
And I have massive sisterhood wounds. And I think that that's a big part of why I'm doing this work. Like, my analogy is, you know, if you grow up in a family or like a home dynamic that was really unstable and very chaotic, you might have this desire to like do parenting in a different way and like have this really conscious home. So I'm come from all the sisterhood wounds, and I'm like, no, but I believe, come on, let's like fix this. And I'm determined to fix it, or to birth the vision of what I know is possible. But at the same time, it scares me, and I feel much safer in a room full of men than I do in a room full of women.
I was literally just about to say that. I think it would be more intimidating to stand up and dance in front of a room full of women than it would be to stand up and dance in front of a room full of men.
Yeah.
Like I feel that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
You,
sisterhood wound, and that's yeah. I
it's
think
just
what I
out
love
where it's
about
at.
what you do is you seem to really lean into what hurts. Like, you've got this really beautiful level of self-inquiry, and I saw you post something recently, and it was about you growing out your armpit hair, right? And you said how woo love it. And you were saying how it's not just like a one-time flex of courage, right? Like, you decide you want to do it, but then you know, you start growing the hair, and then it doesn't grow in this perfect pretty little strip, or you know, you grow this big bush under your arms, and then you like there's a constant you having to unravel that programming and that conditioning, and that you kind of sit with yourself at every layer and really kind of inquire about it, and think, well, you know, why is this triggering me now, and what does this mean? And I really admire that. So I think it shows that it's in all the work that you do.
Thank you so much. Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, I want to live a really beautiful life. And so I will find the beauty, find the poetry, even when a part of me is dying, even when you know, like when you're going through the winter of your life, it's like, like, how can I see this as sacred? How can I see the beauty in it? And the more that I just want to like get close to it and ask questions and inquire, then I can find the purpose, I can find the meaning, and it's like the puzzle pieces land, and it just makes life feel better.
Yeah, and you're also an exquisite writer. I saved something of yours that you'd written actually about it's when you first, because when you first went to the strip clubs, you were in Berlin, right? So
Yeah.
another part of the world, and you wrote something about when you first got to, oh, where is it? You wrote something so beautiful here. When I entered the venue, my eyes widened and my jaw dropped at the sight of the women, sleeking about in their lattice attire, dripping in sensuality and oozing confidence. I watched these women prowl around and drink up the adoration that flowed to them endlessly. They moved like wildcats, with an air of power and mystique, a knowing of their magic. These women had something special and they knew it. Everyone in that room knew it. That's why they were there, to bathe in the radiance of the sirens. I wanted it too. I love that. So beautiful. I can just imagine the scene that you walked into. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that moment for you?
Yeah, so as I said, like this message came to go to a strip club. You know, it wasn't a desire that I was following. Like it was a hey, this is going to be good for you. And I was strapping on my big girl boots, and I'm like, okay. And there was an excitement, like a sense of like, hang on, is God telling me to become a stripper? Okay, I can do it. It's okay because I've got permission. Like it's for my spiritual, which just goes to show like we all have, all my experiences, like we all have this in us. We're just waiting for permission. We're just waiting for the safety around it. Like, can I own this about myself? Because it's true, it's there. But I've been taught that it's bad, it makes me less than, it makes me shallow, it makes me vain, like whatever the story is. And so there was this like equal parts terror and excitement, curiosity. And so I just went to a club just to check it out, just to see what the deal is, like what is involved. And I stepped into this space and I just, yeah, I felt these, and I saw these women just holding their bodies in a certain way and moving very slowly but intentionally. And they just, yeah, they had this knowing of their power. And I was like, whoa, like, where am I? Like, that could be me. Like, could that be me? And they're in there like lingerie. And I was like, why aren't I wearing lingerie on a Tuesday night? Like, what have I been doing with my life? Like, I don't like this could be my uniform. Like, I could like the desire for beauty, for adornment, the play, the dressing up, the stepping into an archetype, or yeah, into a different energy, into a different frequency that I hadn't really given myself permission to explore, and it was really seductive.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that you had the courage to follow that thread. I remember when I was a very different kind of context, but when I was, 18 or something and up on the Goldie for schoolies and went into this strip club, and my friend and I had a lap dance from this beautiful woman, and we were just like in awe of her. And I remember feeling like I want to dance and I want to be seen, and just the way that like this room full of like predominantly men were just like inspired by these women like dancing on the stage like a snake, like captivated, like a snake charmer kind of thing. And I just felt that, and there was this part of me that was like, I want to be seen, like I want to move and I want to do that, but I didn't dare have the courage to, follow that. I certainly went back to reality and got on with my life. But for you to follow that pull, I think is very, very interesting.
It's because like I'd had moments like that where I'd seen not necessarily strippers but just performers, whether they were like fire dancers or hula hoop artists, and I was like, I had that same feeling, like I want that, but I didn't have a tool. I didn't know how to spin fire. I didn't know how to dance with a hula hoop or anything like, or do cabaret or have an act. And so never felt like I would need to train in something. And I remember, like when I actually had a previous boyfriend, and I said to him, I was like, gosh, if I could get paid to dance, like that would be the dream, because I just love dancing. He was like, you could get paid to sexy dance. And I was like, I could. Like, I don't need a history of dance for that. It's like, I don't need to have trained in ballet or anything, And so it's interesting to look back and see like these moments in life that were kind of like slowly, like maybe gearing me. But I never, I'd met strippers before, and I'd been into strip clubs and had very different experiences where I was full of judgment. Like the first time I went to a strip club, I was 18, in like King's Cross in Sydney, and like just wasted, like when you're new to adulthood and you're just taking it way too far and getting blind drunk. And I was there walking the streets with my best friend, and we just heard free drinks, like first free drink, free entry for ladies, and the first free drink. The first drink is free. And we just heard free drinks, and we're like, should we get, sounds like us, should we go? And we're like, oh, it's a strip club. Okay, let's go. Let's get our free drink. And we went upstairs and we got our free drink, and we're sitting there and we're watching the show. And I was snickering about how ironic it was that the woman was dancing to the song called Stupid Girls by Pink, and just really shaming her. And
so what did you want, Caitlin? You wanted to be where she was? What was it that was triggering you?
I couldn't reach that part of me at that point. Like, it was just disgust, like she's selling herself short, how ironic, like she's just judgment, just like from my conditioning. And then years later, the next time I found myself in a strip club was for someone's birthday. And I was like, oh, we're going to this strip club. I don't really want to be. But, I had matured in my self-development. So I had now reached the level of pitying instead of shaming, right? So I was like, I'm going to be really kind to this poor girl who's obviously living a horrible life and has a horrible job and, has to deal with people, wanting to objectify her or take advantage. I'm going to be really nice to her. Like that's where my consciousness was at.
Yeah.
And I remember just like talking to her and being like, are you having a good, but all like just drenched in pity, drenched in still judging her and her choices. And she was just like having the time of her life and telling me how much fun she was having. And she was sharing that like she started stripping when she was studying law. And then, she's not a lawyer anymore. She's got a degree, but why would she do that when she can earn just as much, if not more money stripping, and has the time of her life doing it? And my brain just couldn't compute what was going on. And the idea that someone would choose that, like it just didn't line up with any of my conditioning. So it's life had to like really take me from A to B.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's also there's that distinguishment of like, you don't want to glorify something that frankly a lot of people do not have a choice in doing. And I think that's the differentiation, right? Is that there are people that are in that space because they've chosen it and they're empowered by it, yada yada. But of course that is not always the case, and we know that. And I think it's sort of holding those two things at once. And I'm sure that you've probably met a lot of different women in the space who have come from all different backgrounds and walks of life. And I think we can't tarnish everyone with the same brush, but both truths can exist at the same time. Would you agree with that?
I think, look, I am not here to either pedestalize or trash stripping or sex work in any way. People have all different experiences. Some people have very disempowering experiences. Some people have very empowering experiences. Personally, I had a very empowering experience, and most of the women I met were there by choice. and had other options. And that was like the first lesson that, hang on, like, actually that story is not 100% true. Of course, there are scenarios, there are cases. And I didn't meet a whole lot of that. And yeah, I think the big lesson for me was humility. Like, don't project either way. Don't assume, and I would never want to victimize someone. Like, what benefit is that to her or to me or to him or to, like, whatever, to judge someone based on whatever idea I have or society is, injected into my field of consciousness, that I see them, and before knowing them, before getting to know them, I'm just putting them down or projecting a story of victimhood onto them. So that was a massive lesson for me. And because of my conditioning, when the message came through, it said go to a strip club, and I laughed it off at first, and it came back and said, no, really, the women there have access to something that you don't, and they are to be your next teachers. And that was really the first lesson in humility, that these women that have been stigmatized and are heavily judged by society actually have a great wisdom to offer me. And my invitation is to go there and bow before them and learn from them. And sometimes you're learning what not to do, of course, but I think, there's these women, whether their experiences are empowering or disempowering, they have been into corners of life that most don't dare to go. And from that, they come out with worlds of, like, riches of wisdom that can benefit all of us. If we create a society where they feel safe to share their stories, we can learn a lot from these women. And it's interesting because when I went public about my being a stripper, so many people came out of the woodworks telling me, like, oh, I've done a bit of this, I did that there, I really want to. And it's like, wow, it's more than we realize. Like, someone who has experienced some form of sex work, whether you know it or maybe some people who are public about it, but there are also others that that you just don't know their story. And I've witnessed, like, two people who were both sex workers give each other their fake stories, but I knew that both of them, but it wasn't mine to share. Like, it's kind of like, if only you knew. Like, if only you knew that world, this was a safe space between you.
It's just still, it's very taboo, and it's all hidden and hush-hush, and it's an interesting space.
There's a lot to navigate. There's a lot to navigate within it as well. Like, if I had a daughter who wanted to explore stripping or sex work, like, I would have some pretty big conversations with her. It's like checking in on the double standard. Why was it okay for me? Why would it not be? And just meeting these new threads.
Again, following those little, that self-inquiry that you have. Like, I'm sure it's an ongoing, you'll continue to learn and evolve. And I think for me, if I was going into that space in any capacity, I'd just be wanting to go into it with an awareness of, like, I'm a privileged person, I've lived a very privileged life, and for my entry point is different to the next person's entry point. And we know that there's a whole range of people, like you said, who engage in that world. And whether it's a uni student who wants to pay off their HEX debt, or it's a professional who has this desire to tap into that side of themselves outside of their other job, a million different reasons. I think for me, it's just, I just always like to acknowledge that the sex industry is, there is a lot of toxicity within it, and that not everyone gets to be there by that choice, which is sad. But I just wanted to read you this line from a book called Sex at Dawn by Christopher Ryan, and it says, despite repeated assurances that women aren't particularly sexual creatures, in cultures around the world, men have gone to extraordinary lengths to control female libido. Female genital mutilation head to toe chadors, medieval witch burnings, chastity belts, suffocating corsets, muttered insults about insatiable whores, pathologizing, paternalistic medical diagnoses of nymphomania or hysteria, the debilitating scorn heaped on any female who chooses to be generous with her sexuality, all parts of a worldwide campaign to keep the supposedly low-key female libido under control. Why the electrified, high-security, razor-wire fence to contain a kitty cat? So, talk to me about the work that you do with female sexuality and stepping into your power, tapping into that, your sexual self without shame.
Okay, I want to be really upfront and honest. It's hard. It was hard for me to concentrate when you were reading that because I was still in the previous conversation.
Oh, let's go back.
My body feels really activated right now. Are you happy to pass this
Yes,
around? Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for being honest about your feelings because that's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, like this is the juice, right? And
Yes.
I'm feeling like I'm feeling the fire in my body, and it feels really important to go down this path. And I want to preface this with like I feel like this is the case because we can hold this conversation, and I trust that about both of us.
Yeah.
What I would put to you, and I'll preface this by saying I don't speak for everyone, and I'm not always right at all. But when I hear you talk about being aware of your privilege, absolutely true. What it feels like to me is when you were saying that you would go into a club and you'd just be aware that maybe not everyone is there by choice and that you have a different privilege. That to me feels like separation. That to me feels like you'd be going into the club and you'd be separating yourself from the women, and you might have an air of like concern, or you don't know how to meet us because you can't understand or relate to us being there. And I've been on the receiving end of that, and it feels like concern and it feels like judgment, and it never feels good. I've had women come into the club or men and they tiptoe, and when I'm there, all it feels like is you're just judging me for being here. You're just judging my path. And so and I'm very protective of like all of the women who are in that space. And what I would put to you is, what would it look like to love their path regardless? To just love on them, to be like, you're here. Wow, your soul's chosen this. Maybe your human doesn't understand why you're here. But what could you be doing here? What could you be learning? What are you maybe learning that you don't even realize you're learning? And to just be in awe and be in love and be wanting to get closer to them and connect with them and wanting to see the places where they are empowered. Because I feel like that is what breathes life into a situation and creates unity and creates celebration. Because even if this is also like the alchemy of the energetics, right? It's like, even if they felt like they didn't have other options, they felt like they were there, like they'd rather be somewhere else. If someone comes and meets them just with unconditional love, that can be enough for them to shift something. If someone meets them with concern or pity, it just doesn't activate anything. And I've had and it works both ways, right? Like I've had someone ask me about like the ethics and the morality of me, as the dancer. What if these men are, falling out of agreement to the agreement they have with their partners or wives or whatever, or if they're kind of like escaping and you're what's it called? Like when you're kind of facilitating when you're helping their wounds rather than helping their healing, it's like you're just there's a word for it. And my response to this again is, if I'm in the room with that person, it's not my place to judge them. Like, what is the best thing that I could do for them? Is it true that if I shower them with adoration, if I go into the devotional practice that was my practice as a private dance, is it true that then I'm just hooking them in and that they're going to keep coming back and that they're going to keep spiral and living this unhealthy pattern or this unhealthy life? Like, is it true that by me meeting them in unconditional love and doing my best to get out of my own way and not judge their path and just show up and meet them in that moment, that I would be serving their demise? Like, my job is to be like, what does it look like to choose love in every moment? What does it look like to choose peace in every moment?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's good. I'll sit with that and keep sort of exploring that. I think for me, it's more when I think about, who might listen to this, if there's somebody else who's been in the stripping world or the sex work industry, and for them, their experience has been very different. I don't want it to be pigeonholed that your experience is the same for everyone, because not everyone has the same experience as you, and that is okay. But just honoring that and recognizing that historically a lot of women who have worked in those spaces have had to go through a lot. So it's more just my way of acknowledging that every woman's experience is different, rather than any kind of judgment or anything like that, or their evolution through that. They could enter for X, Y, and Z and then find that their experience is, I don't know, it could evolve from one feeling towards it to an entirely different feeling towards it. Someone could do it for one chapter of their life or a long period of their life. So I think it's more just from me, just acknowledging that whole spectrum rather than just one person's particular experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's not black and white. There's a whole lot of shade of color and everything within that. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there more fire? I feel like there is.
It's just that, no, it's just, it's that, yeah, I think I met a lot of, I would say all the time that strip clubs are not inherently shameful places, but it's the underground, it's the underworld, and it's places where people's shame would rise up, where their fear would rise up, where their inner demons would come out. And so there was just so much that I would see and move and avoid, you have to have good spiritual energetic hygiene, because people can be unconsciously just leaking stuff and stories, and you have to be very clear at understanding what belongs to you and what doesn't belong to you. I had, there were a lot of people that would come into the strip clubs, and feel really uncomfortable about being there, and so it was like, don't be here then. Like, don't, if you don't feel 100% about being here, if you're going to come in here and like have pity or kind of like, bring that to the table, then like just don't, because then we'd have to like soothe or go into that, or we wouldn't have to, but it would just be there. So yeah, I think there's just that that protective force in me that just wanted to speak to that. But yeah, it's there's a lot of things that are true at the same time, and it's not, I think it's like, how do we meet that?
Yeah, I think that just more voices sharing helps, breaking down those stereotypes, those assumptions. And that's why I think I really like your voice in the space, because it gives a different perspective. And we need all those different colourful perspectives. And I understand why a lot of women don't want to share those stories, because of all that societal conditioning. And and I think that's why I've always been drawn to your work and have loved, hearing all of your insights. And then, yeah, moving into sexuality, women's sexuality. Did you want me to read that quote again, or do you want me to just?
I mean, I got the what was the end of it?
It's
I kind of
basically
saw
just
like
a
like
really,
the history of
yeah,
oppressing,
just
and then
basically
the thing about the kitty cat at the end, I missed that part.
just says why the electrified high security razor wire fence to contain a kitty cat. So for something something non-threatening, why have women been so, through patriarchy, why have we been so squashed down? And I suppose, what is this work that you're doing in that space, and why is it important for you?
I think that it's been squashed down because it is our power, it's our nature. Like if you want to control a population, and this is like going back millennia, this is not like a quick fix, and it hasn't been like a quick change. It's been deeply ingrained into society. I grew up with religion. Like I grew up going to church every Sunday, like very devout Catholic family, and like I prayed every night. I still pray every night, but my relationship to religion is very different. I personally don't resonate with organized religion anymore, but I'm still like deeply devotional and spiritual. And it's like I got really close to the church, and it's kind of like the closer you get up to something, it's like I saw the cracks, and I was like, hang on, why this shame? Why this dogma? Why this doesn't feel loving? Like, yeah, just this doesn't feel loving. How do we bring it back? And it feels that organized religion, dogma that controls a population and convinces a group of people that God is outside of themselves. That you have to go to a church or go to a priest to find God, to connect with God, that it's like it's not just within you, and that sex is dirty, shameful. It's like, even like we look at the terminology of the Immaculate Conception. Like if the Immaculate Conception is immaculate, then what does that say about every other natural conception? That it's unclean, that it's dirty. So there's a lot of sexual shame in organized religion, in my experience. And, when I think about like, what is God? God is love. God is creation. God is abundance. God is union. It's unity. It's oneness. It's wholeness. That's everything that sex in its highest frequency, in its highest form, is creation, unity, wholeness, oneness, merging, love. Like it's the highest expression of love. So if you can convince a population that God is separate to sex and kind of separate them, then you're splitting God. It's like, yes, sex has been defiled. Sex has been distorted. Look at the state of the world. There's attack. There's like abuse in sex. Sex has been abused, but so has God. The concept of God, who we understand God to be, has been abused. That we're supposed to be God-fearing, and if you don't, it's like, oh, hang on, that's not what God is. Like in my heart and my soul, that's not what God is. God is sex. And so again, if you can convince a population that their most primal, life-giving, vital function, like humanity will not continue without sex. If you can convince them that their very nature is wrong, they will spend their lifetimes like trying to cut off a piece of themselves in their attempt to find wholeness, because at the end of the day, humanity is very good. And if we feel unworthy, we will, like, who is the most worthy to take this power? We will give up our power to something that is more trustworthy. And so if we are convinced that we are unworthy, we will willingly hand over that power, even if it's to someone who's like manipulating us for it. because we are so, like, the human heart is so good that if we are truly convinced that we are unworthy, we will hand over that power. And so the state of the world is not connected to love and not connected to what I understand to be the true nature of God and love, because we have been convinced that our sexual nature is wrong. Our sexual nature is truth. Your orgasm is your truth. It's what lights you up. It's what is like the creative life force. It births new realities, new ideas. It's the wellspring of life. It's our vital energy. And so, yeah, for me, it feels to be like an ancient campaign for control.
Yeah, I love that. I think something that I read that you wrote as well was that even if you haven't been raised religious, we all kind of absorb a lot of those narratives anyway. And that's kind of how I feel, because I wasn't raised religious. I went to a Catholic high school, but I feel like even though I didn't get taken to church every week by my parents or anything like that, it was in the lineage. I feel like it sort of just is very subconscious and it lives inside of a lot of us and we absorb a lot. And that it feels like there is this shame connection to it. And so that's what I've always sort of sat with and wanted to unravel, that feeling of like, why do we feel this shame around sex? Something that is so natural, and like you said, that is God, and how that's been stripped away from us, and that the power that you can step into when you reclaim that for yourself. So I also feel like with organized religion, very similar to you, I don't love hierarchy. I don't care if you're the Pope or you're a 5-year-old standing in front of me. I want to hear what you feel in your heart, because I don't believe that one is better than the other. I think we all have that power within us, and we don't need to outsource that power. We don't need to walk into a church or a temple or a mosque to connect with God. That's, part of the lie that we've been sold. So I suppose obviously a large majority of the world's population is religious. What would you say to somebody who's kind of grown up within that world, but they're feeling that tug to sort of connect more to their own truth? What are the first sort of steps that you took? Because you mentioned that you were raised religious. So that's quite a big sort of leap to have to take when you've been programmed like that. So what did you first start leaning into when you were sort of awakening to all of this?
I had already left organized religion behind, and then the journey of like coming back to my body, but coming back to my like female body, and again, like raised with privilege, and in a certain part of the world, like I've had a really cushiony life. It's easy to be like, yeah, but I'm fine. But when you really start to peel back the layers, you realize like, no, this is ancestral, it's epigenetic. Like the reality is we're still walking to train stations with our keys between our knuckles. Like it has not been safe to be in a female body. So even if you have had a very safe life, there's still this coding to be hyper aware. The reality is that women relate more to prey animals, like in the food chain and in control and in safety, versus men who are more like predators in the sense that like they don't really have predators in the world. And so the first thing to do is like, if you want to be empowered as a woman, you have to find safety and anchor safety in your womanhood, like in your female body. Coming back to your womb, it's like when I had an IUD and the contraceptive coil in, and I got that taken out. My body hated it. I didn't have it in for very long, and I was like, the nurse said, "What are you going to do now?" I said, "Can't I just learn my body? Like, can't I just know what's going on?" She recommended this book, and when it arrived, it was like this massive like textbook from the 80s. This is really overwhelming and intimidating when it landed, because I wasn't much of a reader. And it's called Taking Charge of Your Fertility by Toni Weschler. And I read it, like, when I opened it, I couldn't put it down, and I read it with equal parts like empowerment, because it was like the first time I was really understanding the process of my body and understanding what's going on and connecting to her like in a physical way, because I was having to crouch down and put my hands inside of myself every morning to like check my cervix and notice how it changes throughout the month, and really connect to the different fluids that are being released at different points of the month. So it connected me to my body and to my womanhood in a very specific way. But I also read this book with equal parts outrage that no one had given me this information growing up. You know, like why wasn't this taught in school when we're learning about the body, and yeah, that was kind of the beginning of my journey of embodiment and like anchoring safety and reverence and into my body and like all like what that means being in a woman's body, like having the hormonal cycle and yeah. So I think for me, it starts with the body, and then when you live from the body, right? It's sensual. What am I feeling? I'm hungry. Okay, well, am I living according to the clock, or am I living according to what she needs? Like if I had a small child and was telling me is hungry, am I going to say, well, you've got to wait? Or am I listening to it? And there's power outside or power in. Like, who am I? Where am I giving my agency to here? And we live in this patriarchal system. I have a choice. I might not like my choices, but I could choose to leave the system and be homeless. Like, I have that choice. I always have a choice. I choose to be in this patriarchal system, and I have to figure that out. And so, it's like, I'm choosing to be in this setup where I've got to pay rent. Well, I've got to earn money. Like, I've got to do this. And it's very understandable that women find themselves taking a Panadol, taking a Nurofen, like whatever, because it's like, well, I've got to show up to work. But what is that saying to the body? When the body is saying, I need rest today. When the body is saying, I need this, I need that. And we're telling her, girl, silence. I can't right now. I can't afford to listen to you. I've got to go listen to that guy so that I can pay my bill, or that woman so I can pay. It's like I'm giving my power to sources outside of myself over my body, because I feel safer in that system than I do in this system. And so it's really, really big work to come back to the body. People throw around this term embodiment. What does it mean? It means I'm living from my body, and when she speaks, I listen. First of all, I can hear her because I've built a relationship where I'm listening, so she trusts me. And not only am I hearing her, but I'm honoring her as best I can in every moment, even if it costs me something, and where am I putting my trust? Where am I putting my agency? So it's really big when you start living from the body. It's like, well, it's a sensual experience, isn't it? It's like I'm noticed, like earlier in the conversation, I was like, I could feel this heat in my body. It's like I'm trying to, my mind saying, listen, you got to be perfect. You got to, like, don't throw and my body is being like, knock, knock, knock. And,
listen to me.
And that's really, and it's edgy as well. It's like, oh, I don't, like, I've been invited onto this podcast. So I don't want to, like, cause, like, I don't know how you'll take this. I don't know how this is going to be written. Like, then the people pleaser comes up and, like, all of the things. And it's like, where is my integrity? What am I choosing in this life? Who am I listening to? Where is my agency? To, like, what am I risking here? I'm risking this going off the rails. I'm risking not being liked. I'm risking being awkward. I'm risking feeling bad that I've put you on the spot. It's like, but can I trust that? Can I trust that even when it's scary? The body, it's an antenna. It's like, it's this sense, like, source of sensation. And when we tap into our sensuality more, then the sexuality flows from that as a natural byproduct, because it's just part of our nature. When we're turned on, You know, it's like people use this and out like, I want to be turned on, as if like you're just going to be sexual. No, turned on means like the lights are on and you can feel. Turned on means you notice the shift in temperature. You notice when there's something happening. It's not always necessarily erotic or sexual, but you're awake to it. And when that is turned on, then the sexuality will just flow through that. But we've got to be willing to feel it all. Like we can't just like choose just only the sexy stuff. Like we've got to be willing to meet those like wobbly, shaky discomfort. And that's the game.
Yeah, and I feel that too as well. Like even for me on this side, I felt like I need to say that as I'm interviewing you. I feel that I need to mention that before I can move on. So we're both feeling that exact same feeling, and that's why when you said I need to go back, I feel like, yeah, like even if it's uncomfortable, please, because if we can both, you know, sit in that embodiment, and the discussions aren't always easy or light, you know, but just the willingness to sit in that space, and everyone has different opinions and views, but if we can't sit here and each speak our own truth, then, you know, that's what it's about. But I think as well, it never gets, maybe it does get easier, but that embodiment that you were saying, you know, you, like you said, you think, oh, if I say this, am I going to put her offside? Is people not going to like what I say? You're constantly having to flex that muscle. And with the shame, I was curious to know where you are at with it now. Is that, we all know healing's not linear, but do you feel like you have really good days where you're like, I'm this goddess and I can have astral orgasms? Because I've heard you talk about orgasming through the third eye. And like, do you ever have days where you just go like, shit, I thought I was past this, and it just kind of comes up for more healing?
Yeah, and I'm gonna have those days until I take my last breath, because I'm here for growth, and you know, and I want to become more. And like, we don't grow without breaking. Like there's no creation without destruction. It's like that the fibers of the muscle need to tear apart when we're building muscle. It's like, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm always, and there's like, it's like you graduate. Like I remember one time, like I was at the top of my game and feeling so good, and this was years ago, and then like I asked for more. I'm like, life, take me deeper. And then suddenly, like, boom, I fell off my horse. And I used to like fall off my horse and roll around laughing, and I'm like, yeah, like nothing could bring me down. I was unfuckwithable. Suddenly, like I was getting hit, like, and it hurt, and like I didn't have the bounce that I used to have. And it's like, it took me through this like 7-year cycle of like learning how to die and humility. And, you know, for a while I'm like, am I ever going to be happy again? Like what have I asked for? Like, am I ever going to have that bounce? And it was only when I got to the end of the cycle, I realized what had happened, where it's like, because I felt so disappointed. I was like, come on, Caitlin, you used to be able to just like take this in your stride. Like what, like, how have you lost this? How have you like downgraded yourself? And I realized, no, I hadn't downgraded. I had advanced to a bigger pond. And it felt like, you know, when you're at the end of primary school and you're in year 6 and you're the biggest kid and you're the cool kid in the school, and then you go to high school and suddenly you're the small kid. You've gone from being the biggest fish in the small pond to being the smallest fish in the big pond. And I think that life has a way of doing that for us, like moving us into different initiations and periods and different chapters where it feels like we've gone backwards, but actually we're just ready for the next level, and we've got to be new at it, and we've got to be the beginner again. But it's always moving. Like, you know, you look at the graph and it's like it's a dip on the way up.
Or like, have you heard of that, like that contraction and then expansion, contraction and expansion? Like it kind of, you kind of have this really rough sort of like, it almost feels like you go backwards a bit, and then it's like you expand bigger, and it's kind of, it's a very uncomfortable expansion process.
Yeah, and if we have the knowledge that that's the pattern, then we meet the contraction and we can get excited about it because we know what it means, right? So then we can have a different relationship to the contraction because we're not scared of it, we're not resisting it, we're not running it away. Like in that moment, it's like, this feels really scary, but can I trust that this is actually like, we're going to grow bigger. Like, I trust you more now. I feel safer with you now. And, you know, when you were speaking earlier about like that moment and what it was for you, like my whole body was just lighting up in these like delicious tingles. And it's like, yes, and that's the matriarchy. And that's like women strapping on their big girl boots, or anyone strapping on their, you know, big person boots and being like, let's do this. Like, let's be intimate with it instead of running away from it. And that's like, everything is just about relationship, and how can we get closer to this moment, even when it's scary, even when we're in the mystery,
when it's uncomfortable. Yeah.
And it's like, can we trust that? And it's like the contraction, trusting that it leads to expansion. So like, yeah, it rewrites how we meet, and how we meet different challenges or moments in life, and how we show up in every moment. If we have that like cheat code, that it's like, hang on, this isn't like, I'm not just in the bubble of contraction now, I'm here because I know that it's leading to expansion. And then we can welcome it, then we can die to it, then we can dive right in and be like, all right, let's go. And then
it's funny too, because I have this feeling like when we're talking, it's like, I know that the semantics are just in the way here, whereas energetically I know that we're on the same page, babe, but there's just some semantic shit here in the way, right? Like, I can feel that in my, it's weird. Life is weird.
And it's also when, you know, we're having this conversation with the intention to put it out into the world. So sometimes it's like and that's the thing about being a channel, right? It's like, this is coming through and I don't know why, but I don't need to know why. It's for someone else. Someone needed to hear that. Someone needed to hear both sides. Like, it's like can we get out of our own way? Can we put the ego aside and just let God move through us and trust that?
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to ask you about your journey. I feel like you're a few steps ahead of me on the path in terms of connecting with Jesus, Yeshua, Mary Magdalene, and sort of exploring your relationship with them from your own heart rather than what you've been taught through the Bible. I've been interested in that work for a long time. I've seen a lot of, Mary Magdalene manuscripts floating around, and like the real truth about, the divine union of what Jesus represented as the masculine and Mary as the feminine, and I just see a lot of dialogue in that space, but I'm yet to go down that rabbit hole, and I know that you have. So tell me about that experience of like having the confidence to follow your own heart and to tune into those energies, because in my heart, it feels like for me that, Jesus existed, but as a healer, and that the way that he's been represented in the Bible is probably not authentic to how he really did exist at the time. That's what my heart tells me. I met a woman once and she said to me, if you ever need healing, pray to Jesus. He's the ultimate healer, and that was sort of the core of his energy. And so, yeah, what do you feel like, how did you find that courage to start connecting with him sort of directly into his energy? And the same with Mary Magdalene. Tell me about that whole experience for you.
So I remember the time when after I had moved away from the church, and my teacher mentioned Jesus. She actually rebranded him. She called him JC, and I thought maybe this will help, because I got triggered. It's like, why is she bringing him? I've left that, and then I was like, Caitlin, I think you just got played. Like if you've thrown the baby out with the bathwater, and like this is what organized religion does. It taints and it distorts the truth. And if you're like, that's distorted, so you throw it all away, it's like, well, you've just thrown away the truth that was hidden within it as well. And so like I had, and I still, it's softening, but it's still, I started just saying, Jesus, show me who you are. Just show me who you really are. Show me your truth. And all of that was scary, you know, and there's a lot of people who are born again, or a lot of people who have been in the realm of teaching on sexuality or embodiment that are then like going back to the church and having these big, you know, it's this part of me that was like, what if I let Jesus in and then I go back there, you know, and the fear of that. What if I let Jesus in and then I realize that everything I've done was wrong, you know, and just having to soothe all of those things, and meet that just like moment by moment. And I'm still moving through that with Jesus. Mother Mary is the one that came through to me really strongly, and she's the figure, I guess, for whatever reason, that has been most resonant or easier to reclaim my relationship with first. And she started trying to reach me through other people because I was a bit walled up when I run an event called the Orgasmic Woman. And I just had like I'm speaking, and you know, I was speaking at an event before the Orgasmic Woman, and one of my clients said, you were just, that your hair was doing this fuzzy thing and the lighting, and it just looked like this veil, and I was just seeing Mother Mary. And then someone else was talking about Mother Mary, and then the color and blue was coming, like Mother Mary's blue, and then where we ran the venue, the shop underneath, like downstairs, had a big poster of Mother Mary. So she was like underneath where we were running the event. I'm like, Mary, you're here again. Like, okay, like why?
I'm gonna start listening now.
Why are you here? Okay, like you keep coming to me. I went for an energetic clearing just after that event. And I didn't tell, this woman doesn't follow me on Instagram. She didn't know anything about the event I'd run. She didn't know anything about Mother Mary. And she does this clearing on me. And then at the end, she says, Mother Mary came through. Mother Mary came through and she insisted to me. I had sex after Jesus. Joseph and I were in divine partnership and divine union. Like, I was honored. Like, my body was honored in this lifetime, in that lifetime. And I was like, okay, here she is again. Like, Mother Mary apparently really wants me to know her true story. And then I spoke to a friend who reads the Akashic Records, and I had a session with her. And the Akashic Records is for anyone that doesn't know, it's like all the records, histories of everything that could ever potentially exist on possible future timelines, or anything that has existed in your soul's records. So you can ask about your own soul's records, past lives, parallel lives, all of that, or you can ask about but you can't ask about anybody else's records, only your own. So I'm like, okay, like let me find out about Mother Mary here. And I spoke to my friend whose name is Mary, just to make it more confusing. And Mary's telling me that Mary came through, and it was just like, she's here working with millions, you know, everyone around the world, trying to undo the threads of distortion that the organized religion has put on the truth and on the story. But yeah, then I have some kind of astral experiences and dreams, and then she gave me an orgasm through my third eye, and which was just like pouring out of me. And the other day I had a dream, and she came through and she just showed me this word, willpower. And I shared it with someone else who said, oh my gosh, like my brain is exploding right now. Mother Mary came to me in a journey and was telling me about like the power of will. And at first when I heard that, I was like, oh wow, like I never really associated Mother Mary with willpower. And interesting that, you know, we're both having these similar experiences around will and the power of will. And then I thought, oh my gosh, duh, like that was the conception that, you know, she was able, by the power of will, by the power of a process of manifestation and devotion, that she was able to conceive without the seed of man. And if you look into a lot of esoteric kind of hidden mystery school teachings, that there was a whole lineage and plenty of myths virginal births and births that were not pregnancies that were not conceived through the seed of man. So
Yeah, I was going to ask you because I saw you posted something the other day, and I feel like it was an Egyptian setting of looking at those womb mysteries and what women are capable of in terms of manifestation. That sounds incredibly juicy. Tell me a little bit about
that. I'm still exploring this myself, so I don't feel
new
like
territory
I'm the person to speak on it now. But you know that there's just a lot more to this world than we've ever understood or recognized or has been allowed to be in the collective consciousness. And we're in an interesting moment where as things come, you know, when things come out, they're not necessarily going to be believed. And that's totally fine. You know, it's not for everyone. And that's where that agency and coming back to your body and meeting these truths from within is going to be your compass. You know, is this just a story? Is there truth in this? And it's, you know, like the real physical sensations that I've had in my body. And it's the path that I'm on, moving into the mystery, even when the mind can't compute. And sometimes you know, if you had a piece of paper and you drew a stick man on it, and you drew a tree, and in that 2D realm, that stick man exists in the 2D. It can walk to the tree and it can walk away from the tree. You know, it can go back and forth, back and forth. If you take that piece of paper and you wrap it around and make it a cylinder, that little man who's operating in the 2D is walking that straight line. And he goes past the tree and he keeps walking in a straight line, and then he goes past the exact same tree and he's like, this is impossible. I'm walking in a straight line. Why do I keep passing the exact same tree? Because his reality is being bent into a different dimension, but he's only still experiencing it from a lower dimension. So sometimes, you know, it's like, are we trying to answer these higher dimensional problems
in this reality,
lower dimensional tools?
Yeah.
You know, just
very
because
hard to
you
explain.
Can't conceive of it doesn't mean it's impossible. But that's a very expansive journey and one of the mysteries.
Yeah, and people will stumble upon that work when they're ready to, when they're able to comprehend it and in the right time. But I won't keep you for much longer. But I just, for the last question, I suppose, going back to God and sex, I'm curious to know, I had an experience where I was working with an energy worker, and we'd worked together for a really long time, and it was very non-religious, but I think she went sort of went back to Christianity, and we had a session one time, and I felt like that kind of came into the space, and we were talking a lot about sex, and she said to me that masturbation was a portal for, you know, negative entities, forces to connect to us, and that I should refrain from masturbating because if I was to do that, it would be opening this portal, right? And that that sex is sacred, and that with two people having sex, that the Kundalini energy should be activated, and that's how we should all be having sex, essentially. So you know, if you also use the analogy of like we all eat food every day, sometimes we sit down and we have organic, nutritious, gourmet food that lights up our body and nourishes us in our soul and spirit. And we sometimes have junk food. You have a McDonald's meal and, you know, it's still feeding us, but it's giving us a very different experience. So if you liken that to sex, for example, with like, you know, and also tying into what the energy worker said, what do you feel in regards to your journey with sex and finding, do you hold space for all the different kinds of sex to come through? You know, whether that's really sort of deep, loving, passionate sex to like BDSM practices, there's a whole spectrum of it. Do you hold all of that in the same sort of field, or do you believe that there is sort of discrepancy between the sex that we engage with?
There's, I mean, the,
That's a big one.
it's not, sex can come in all varieties. And some, again, like point it inwards. Like, does it give you more energy or does it deplete you? Sometimes we have sex that fills us up, that lights, that like gives us this energy. And sometimes we have sex and we come away feeling used, confused, or abused. Like, not all sex is equal. That's true. And I never want to bring shame into my life's work. Is all about delicately and powerfully dismantling shame, because I don't think that shame does anything that love can't do better in every way. And so it's not about like, from the outside looking in, if sex looks like that, then it's better. But if sex looks like this, if sex is two people and they're holding hands at the beginning and they're setting an intention like that, that's better. But if they're BDSM and like there's kink, then that's lower. It's not about that. It's not about what they're doing. It's about who they're being. If two people are meeting heart to heart, if they're connecting genuinely, if they're looking to pour into each other in reverence, that can happen with a whip and a spanking paddle. If it's for each other, if it's drenched in reverence, and it's like that. It's not about what we're doing, it's about who we're being. So yes, there's cheap sex, there's fast food sex, and then there's gourmet sex, and there's healthy, revitalizing, nourishing sex. That I will agree to, absolutely. What that looks like, again, like this is the embodiment piece, right? It's not always about what it looks like from the outside looking in. It's about how it feels. And sex, there's a lot of distortion, there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of like just ickiness and like just like a younger, like a less matured experience of sex. And there's a matured, refined experience of sex, which at its highest frequency is lovemaking. It's connection, it's union. Do I think that cannot happen with self-pleasure? I don't believe that. I think it's really important that our waters are flowing, that we don't become stagnant, that our sexual energy, our vital energy has pathways to flow. And if you're not in a relationship, then like, do you just starve yourself because you don't have someone who can meet you, or would you be self-sourced and take responsibility for making sure that your rivers flow in a really devotional, beautiful way? Yeah, sometimes we can be in a self-pleasure practice that really isn't present, where we're trying to get something from our body, where we're looking for a fast. Again, it's not what we're doing, it's who we're being. So even sex with ourselves can be fast food sex or gourmet sex.
And is there anything really wrong if you want to have a quick orgasm and just have a quick release, and then another day you have a 2-hour beautiful orgasmic session where you light candles and allow space for yourself? Like, is there any?
It's not about anything being wrong. It's just, how does it feel for you?
Yeah,
and I think, hurting anyone? Are you hurting yourself? Like, no, probably. Sometimes yes, maybe, but you can be hurting yourself with the candles as well. If your mind is like, I'm so pathetic, I can't, why is this taking me 2 hours? It's like, oh, I keep getting distracted, I should be better than that, blah, blah, blah. I've put on weight, or I've lost weight, I look gaunt, it's like, again, whether it's, a quick moment or a long moment with all the bells and whistles, it's about how we're meeting that moment. And sometimes, we might meet the moment that doesn't feel good. And that's not wrong. That's showing us, that's giving us data. Oh, that wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be. Okay, great. Now we're learning, now we're growing. So like, all roads lead home. Even like, whatever the scariest, darkest, gloomiest story is, you know, it's the meth addict, you know, I fell into this dark current. But if that's where you find, like, if you had to go through that to find God, then was it ever wrong? Or was that just the journey that your soul chose? Was that the karma that you wanted to clear? Like, so just being humble, like removing this concept of right and wrong and trusting the body as compass. What feels good? Sometimes good might feel like throwing a tantrum. Sometimes good might be being in the discomfort. It doesn't feel pleasurable, but it's like it feels right for you. It feels right in that moment, you know, and just trusting the body to guide instead of like, is this right? Is this wrong? Again, we're putting our agency outside of ourselves, looking for, you know, and it's good to connect, and we want to have these dialogues because what it does is it sparks resonance within us. Like having this conversation with you, it's like, oh yeah, and then this and that, and then, you know, we get to, like, we need to have these discussions, and the best way that we can move through these discussions is that we're supporting each other to come home to ourselves. Like, it's not necessarily what you say, it's how I feel when you say it. Thank you so much. Thank you for being that mirror for me. And so it's like always about, like, yes, being in this, like, the law of rhythm. Like, I go out in order to come in. Like, I'm going out and I'm interacting with the world and I'm getting close as a mirror, as a practice of self-agency and self-discovery and self-remembrance.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, I felt like just when that message was shared with me about the self-pleasure and all of that, it just felt like I always listen to what people say, and I do feel into it, and you know, it's good to be like that in some ways, but also not to give your power away. And I sat with that for a while, and I felt like, what did my body feel when that message was shared with me? And it felt very constrictive. It felt very fear-based. And so, yeah, I just felt like that's not right. It doesn't feel true for me. That just doesn't. And I think that's important for everyone to do. And that comes back to hierarchy again, is that we always are our own authority first and foremost. Like, we should never give that power away to anybody else. It's beautiful to keep learning and growing and connecting and everything like that, but always sort of running those messages through our own body to see what feels right. And I think with religion, that's where it begins as well. Like you said, it's just, how does it feel in your body to hear that? And yeah, for me, if it's not expansive, if it's making me feel smaller, then that's probably not the right way for me to go. Yeah. But like you, it's a forever journey. It's a forever journey.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like, power to you. I would have done the same thing. I would have tried it out. I would have sat with it, you know, because also it's like, if I'm like, oh, I don't like that, then I go, okay.
That's a big reaction. Yeah.
Let's go into that fear. Like, because if there's charge, it's like there's something for me to learn, you know, and I might go into that, well, what if she's right? Okay, well, then she's right. Then it means that I've been doing this wrong. Okay, and that feels horrible. Okay, why does it feel horrible? Well, because I feel like I've messed up. And it's like, okay, so I'm feeling shame. And how does that feel? Well, it makes me feel small. It makes me want to run away. It makes me feel like I'm wrong, like I'm inherently wrong. And it's like, oh, how does that feel? You know, and then who do I become in the world? You know, and just having like that tenderness for like, yeah, it is like, you try really hard. Like, look how much you want to just do right and be good. Isn't that so sweet? Oh my gosh, you're so adorable. I love you so much. You could never get it wrong. Like, you're always learning. Even if it was wrong, you're just learning. Like, you know, even like there's just coming back to that radical compassion and just like letting those parts of our fear speak. It's like, why is that so scary? Because I don't want to do the wrong thing. Oh, honey, you know, and then just like having that moment and giving ourselves permission to bump around. And, you know, it is like, yeah, I think if we're willing to try things on and be like, that doesn't feel good, and go into it, then like we just get to create more intimacy within ourselves as well. Like, it's always just going to bring us closer if we're, yeah, willing to meet our monsters and go to those places that are like, oh, So
Yeah, absolutely. I could chat with you for hours and hours and just I really could. I could
me
keep
too.
throwing questions at you all day. But I will let you go. But before I do, would you like to share what's coming up in your world if anyone's feeling called to connect with you, to work with you? I think I saw you've got an amazing retreat coming up in June, which I'm sure any woman that goes to it's going to have the most amazing time. So yeah, please share.
Yeah, I have my retreat coming up in June in Australia in Mudgee. So that's going to be 6 nights together. It's personal development, but make it sexy. You know, we're going to be stripping away all of the conditioning and meeting the parts of ourselves that we've been taught to fear, and our sensuality and our sensual expression and our erotic expression. Um, yeah, it's really worth looking into. Check it out on my website. I've run it for like over 80 women now, and they've loved it, adored it. One woman's coming back for the third time. She's loved it that much. And then I've got some online programs. I'm moving more and more into the online space. And I've got a 12-month mystery school program coming up for women who really, really want to dive deep and go all in on their journey. So that's part of the Temple of Venus offering. Yeah, keep an eye out for different things, because I'll always have different things running. But yeah,
Are you
12-month
doing
online mystery school.
anything more in the God and sex space? Like I think you did a webinar or something.
I
Is there
will.
any?
Yeah, I want to run that again. Like a 7-week program on Holy Eros, which will be pleasure practices. So it'll be online. So everyone's going to be in the comfort and safety of their own space. And the concept is, especially for those of us who have grown up with shame around sexuality, we can do all of the talk therapy in the world, but shame lives in the body. Like it's in the body, and the only way to really clear it is to go and do the thing that we were made to be afraid of, right? So if it's like, can you walk out? If you were told, don't go out there, a bad thing will happen. If you can build the courage and the safety and the trust, is like, I'm ready to go out there because I know logically that I don't think anything's going to happen, but my body is still afraid. So you take the body out there and you stand there awkward and tremoring and shaky and like messy. And if you can just hold it on that edge of your comfort zone, and you realize that the threat does not come, the monster does not come, you've just expanded your capacity. And now where this was the edge, now this is the edge. And that's how we expand, and we get to dismantle the shame. And it takes a lot of courage. And that's why I bow down to anyone that comes into my space. And so I want to create these pleasure rituals where, maybe we're dropping into that eros and we're dropping into self-pleasure, and the women can have their cameras off. They're in their own space, but we're doing it as a group collectively. And you might be thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm touching myself and I'm on this call and there's other women and they're all doing this. They're like, who have I become? What am I doing? And I haven't died. And
That sounds so crazy. I'm like, I want to do that with you. I'm so
yeah.
keeping an eye out for that one.
Yeah, and it's like, and you realize like, and I'm still safe, and I'm still the kind, caring, compassionate woman that I'm so proud to be. And doing this thing hasn't made me a bad person. Okay, so now I feel a little bit more safe with my sexuality, and now I'm reclaiming it more and more and more. So it's like gentle exposure, gentle, yeah, it's very graceful work, and it's extremely powerful. So yeah, Holy Eros will be coming up again in a couple of months. So
Holy
look out for that
Eros,
one.
it's just, I love that. I really do. And I truly believe that when women heal together, it's so powerful than, say, just working on your own. Like, I feel like when women heal together, everyone gets the medicine that the individuals are taking collectively. Like, there's something very,
Chills.
yeah, powerful in it. Yeah. How exciting. Many great things happening for you. All
Feels good.
right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting about all these different topics and being really truthful in doing so, and speaking your truth as I knew you would. So thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you so much for having me. I've really adored this, and yeah, like I really appreciate these conversations where, like I said, I'm like, I trust you. Like we meet, you know, and that feels so nourishing for my soul in and of itself. So thank you so much. And
Likewise,
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share with someone if you think they'd enjoy it too. Until next time, have a beautiful day.